Look, I don't think we're going out on a limb here by saying that Dying Light 2 was, for many people, kind of a mildly disappointing follow-up to the original game. Now, it's not that Dying Light 2 was all that bad of a game. I mean, it was far from perfect, but on its own terms, it's a pretty decent open world game. I did the before you buy video for it, and I still recommended it, but comparing it directly to the first Dying Light, which was just lightning in a bottle with its design and gameplay systems and feel, the second game fell short of, I think, what some fans and critics really wanted with a sequel. Now with this new Dying Light the Beast, it seems like developers Techland are trying to bring the series back to what everyone really liked about the first game, while still attempting to evolve the formula somewhat. The interesting thing about this game is that while it's selling for $60 and is, according to the developers, a fully featured standalone game, it was originally envisioned as DLC for Dying Light 2. But has greatly expanded in scope the past few years of development. So at the core, the gameplay and mechanics are going to feel closer to Dying Light 2, but they still seem to be putting as much effort as possible to make this new game feel more like the first Dying Light. Or at least that's what they're trying to get across in the marketing. You know, I'm gonna be cynical, but like, look, they're bringing back the original protagonist, Kyle Crane. The story is back to being linear, and most of the popular elements from the original seem to be coming back with the Beast. This could be the big comeback that this series needs. Now, not because Dying Light 2 was that terrible, again, we don't think it's that bad, but because that original Dying Light 1 was just so good. We just want more of that, not what the sequel was trying to do. So before the new game releases, let's dive into all of the known info about this new one and see if this is Techland's big comeback zombie game. Now, this video isn't sponsored and we haven't played the game yet, so keep your eye out for our full critique, the before you buy video, the final verdict when the game actually launches. But one of the things with this game that did caught our eye is how night is handled. It's one of the more highly criticized elements of the sequel, and for good reason. In the first game, night was terrifying, while in the sequel, it felt more like a slight inconvenience. For the Beast, Techland looks like it's trying to make the night something to fear again, with changes and tweaks to make nighttime feel especially dangerous and challenging and oppressive. And to give them a little credit, Techland did go and update Dying Light 2 to make nights darker and more dangerous, but it was all just like too little too late. The Beast is using some of what they learned with the night updates for the sequel, while apparently making many more changes to enhance it. Nighttime in the Beast is dark as hell from the gameplay sequences we've seen out there, the preview stuff. Like, look at it, especially if you're out in the wilderness. Well, it looks like the city areas are gonna have like flaming barrels around here and there to, you know, give little light pinpoints so it's not all pitch black. But the volatiles, the hyper aggressive and deadly zombie variants, are the focus here. They hunt at night, they search for you in the darkness, and if they stop you, then they're extremely deadly. Now, it sounds like Techland has put in a lot of work making the volatiles effective and scary hunters, with more varied attacks and apparently more realistic animations. Everything they're saying sounds like the nighttime gameplay will be a lot closer to what we got in the first game, which will hopefully bring back some of those tense moments where you're like stuck out at night and you're forced into this desperate retreat back to a safe zone. That shit hit so well in the original game. The constant danger of night is just what made that first game stand out as an open world and as a survival horror game. It's the special sauce that made that game work so well. So hopefully the Beast actually manages to make the night as terrifying as it should be. Hopefully it's not all just marketing speak. Because look, they hyped up the night stuff in Dying Light 2 and that ended up not being so much, so we're gonna have to wait and see. But nighttime mechanics aren't the only thing that are getting an overhaul in this new game, because another widely criticized element of the sequel was how floaty and unrealistic the parkour felt. It was just one of the many ways they were trying to make the sequel more accessible and more open, but it kind of missed the mark of the feel of the original game. So for the Beast, according to the developers, they're taking the basics of the parkour system from Dying Light 2, which this game is still mostly built on top of, but making changes to the weight of the jumps to make them feel a little more like an actual person again and not Super Mario. It's a fine line that they need to thread here, but the template is there. The first game got it just about perfect. So as long as the game's movement is gonna feel like that, then we'll be happy. Their goal here seems to be to make parkour a little more challenging. They still want us to be able to climb everywhere and anywhere and enjoy the freedom of movement, but there needs to be at least a little skill to pull off, the more tricky maneuvers. On default, there will be no parkour assistance at all, so it's all just down to your skills if you want to survive. But that does at least imply that there will be certain parkour assists for players who want to turn that on. So they're offering options to players who want them, I guess. From previews and stuff that we've seen out there, it does sound like jumping is definitely heavier. Maybe a little too heavy, because some people who previewed the game reported missing their jumps even when it seemed like they should make it. But that's a preview of a work in progress build. The game is still being tweaked up until release, so we don't know for sure. Hopefully they balance that challenge just right. And speaking of previews, from looking at a lot of influencers and reporters and game journalists and people who have gotten their hands on an early version of the game, it seems like combat may be improved. Apparently it's more aggressive and you can more easily get taken out by a couple of zombies. And good, that's good. Zombies should feel threatening. That's why we play zombie games, right? But apparently you get takedown moves now, which is pretty cool. Like you can weaken enemies and then do a takedown, kind of like a glory kill from Doom. And what's cool is that apparently, according to developers, there's way more gore and you're gonna be able to dismember zombies more. I'm always down for that. Now, the presence of firearms has always been like a debated or talked about thing with this series. In the first game, some people took issues with firearms being in such a melee focused game. And then in the sequel, they removed the guns. And then people kind of wish there were some guns. So look, opinions about guns in the Dying Light series are kind of all over the place. Some people seem to like it, some people hate them. But at least for the Beast, you need to know that guns are here, and it seems like, kind of more like Dying Light 1, they're once again a big part of the experience. It's just one more way in which this new game seems like it's going to just try to be more like the original. So from what we've seen, there are pistols, shotguns, assault rifles, crossbows, a flamethrower, and you're not just fighting goons with melee weapons this time. There are once again armed guards and bandits to deal with that will require shooting skills, melee, and even a little stealth to deal with. Personally, I mean, looking back at Dying Light 1, I thought guns gave the series some variety and a satisfying sense of progression, so I'm cool with bringing guns back for the Beast, but I understand the concerns, and I just hope they find a good fine line, a good balance. You don't want guns completely replacing melee weapons, but you also don't want them to be too underpowered. So with that, the jury's still out. We're just gonna have to wait and see. One of the more unusual parts of the first two Dying Light games was how leveling up worked, if you remember. Instead of just a standard experience system, it was kind of more of like a hybrid Morrowind system where you'd gain combat, parkour, and survival-based skills, like experience based on when you did that stuff, which was a cool and thematic system, but it sometimes led to having some lopsided skill progression. Now, one thing we noticed with the Beast is that apparently they're eliminating this system, replacing it with like a more standard experience system where you can put points wherever you want to level up. You just get the same experience for doing everything now. It's no longer split up into different categories. The experience system was something even fans of the original games were never exactly happy about. It's not a bad system, but there was no reason not to just go with a standard leveling system, especially for such an action-heavy game like this. Now, judging from the trailers and stuff, the plot of the Beast is that Kyle Crane was captured and experimented on for years by this evil dude, and he was apparently infected with zombie DNA. Now, it's not clear if this was supposed to be from the ending to the following DLC, or if it's some new development, I don't know, but either way, Kyle now has the ability to tap into his monster side and literally enter beast mode, where he gets increased power and agility and some new tricks like being able to pick up boulders and be stronger and throw shit around. Beast mode is apparently triggered by filling up a meter after giving or receiving damage. At first, it's unpredictable and not always that effective, according to people who've played the game in the preview. Sometimes you'll trigger beast mode at the end of a fight, so you're just wandering around powered up with nothing to use it on. But from at least one preview, it does appear that there will be an unlockable skill that makes it so you can toggle beast mode manually. These powers are controlled by the new skill tree, which is leveled up separately from the standard combat and parkour trees. To get points and increase the beast tree, you have to hunt down and apparently kill unique bosses in the environment. Now, becoming more powerful temporarily sounds like fun. It's a good new variation for these games, but we'll have to wait and see whether it kind of undermines the horror atmosphere the developers were trying to always build with these games. Like, if you feel like Superman, is it going to kill the vibe? I don't know, but I want to get my hands on it. Now, in terms of the size of the game, a few months ago, Techland said that they were aiming for the game to take around 20 hours to finish, but recently they've actually bumped that number up considerably. That's something you don't really see, at least from developers speaking to the public. But Techland is saying now that on top of the 20 or so hour main story, there will also be around 20 to 30 hours of additional content in the game, which could be an exaggeration. We don't know for sure, but even still, that does mean that there's potentially a bit more to this game beyond just completing story missions. According to their words, just in the last few months, the amount of content has really exploded in the game. The developers have just apparently gone nuts stuffing in more stuff for players to experience and find in the new location of Caster's Woods. Now, this rural region really reminds us a lot of the Outskirts from the Following, with the way it has like winding rural roads and a more compact city environment. This new location is based on the Swiss Alps, believe it or not. And it uses that location a pretty impressive effect. It looks cool, kind of like beautiful and sinister. Again, really kind of somehow evoking the first Dying Light. Hard to put my finger on how, but they're just really going for that. What we're curious to see is how the Easter eggs are, because Techland, like, they have some of the best in the business. We've made videos about some of their cool Easter eggs, so I hope they come up with some good stuff here. Also, speaking of the Following, which I thought was like a great expansion of the first game, completely underrated, but they are bringing back the vehicles which were featured in that game. But instead, no buggy, now you get a big old pickup truck. Also, for a while, we assumed that there was no other info about the vehicles and how they worked in the Beast, but during an AMA with Reddit last year, a developer did confirm that the vehicles will work in a similar way to how they did in the Following, so they can get worn down, become damaged, and run out of fuel. Having some simulation elements for the car, so it's not just like a free form of fast travel, was one of the more interesting innovations from the Dying Light 1 DLC, so it's good to hear that they brought back some of those features, man. Also, even though this game is meant to be a more linear, story-focused game, it's still going to have 4-player co-op, so you and I guess 3 other Kyle Cranes can play together with shared progression. It has been confirmed that the game does support shared progression, so everyone advances the story when they play together. Unfortunately, it doesn't have cross-play, and it doesn't seem like they have plans to add it either. This was the case also with Dying Light 2, so maybe it's some kind of engine issue. I don't know. Still disappointing, but cool to play it co-op. Hopefully everything works out here, from a technical standpoint at least. One other thing I wanted to point out, the game is releasing soon, and I think this is kind of going to get lost in the shuffle when reviews drop and when people's opinions drop, but one really cool thing they're doing for the Beast is that they're giving it away for free to everyone who bought the Dying Light 2 Stay Human Ultimate Edition. They originally promised the expansion for free with the Ultimate Edition, but it eventually, like we said, became its own big standalone game. People paid a premium to get something, some sort of DLC from that Ultimate Edition. And even though the Beast is way bigger and a whole separate product from what like the original plan was, Techland is still honoring that original promise. That's the kind of generosity you rarely see in the gaming business nowadays. It sounds to me like pretty pro-consumer, so I think pro-consumer moves from developers should be pointed out and celebrated when there's the occasional rare win. Still, that being said, like I said, the game is releasing in at the time of this video, probably like a week, and we don't know whether or not it's actually going to be any good, but this is all the info you needed to know. We're looking forward to getting our hands on the game. Like I said, keep your eyes peeled for the before you buy video. If you like this video and learned something, clicking the like button helps us out. We appreciate it, and be sure to let us know in the comments what you're thinking of Dying Light the Beast, but also just the franchise as a whole. What do you prefer, Dying Light 1 or Dying Light 2? Or the Following, my personal favorite. Either way, let us know. Let's talk. Subscribe if you haven't already, but thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.